I am the man behind the anime girl, and welcome to another episode of Backlogged Gaming. I'm going to talk a bit about Sparking Zero now that the new game smell and hype has worn off. I actually played this game back when it originally came out and got 100% achievements after about a month of on and off gameplay, only just now reviewing it because I was not in a good place last year as far as spare time or motivation were concerned. That said, keep in mind everything I'm saying here is as a longtime fan of Dragon Ball who has played many Dragon Ball video games. Now, I've seen how they've handled updating the game and delivering the DLC, so this is going to be a bit more of a rant than a review. I do like this game, but after writing the rest of this script, I realized this is a rant, and I might as well call it what it is. So let's get the absolute good stuff out of the way first. The graphics are spectacular. I remember some people whining about them not being good enough back when the game came out, but I don't know what other Dragon Ball game they were comparing them to come to that conclusion. But even beyond the graphical improvements over the most recent game in this installment, which was a PS2 game, unless you want to count Raging Blast, a lot of other things got more attention to detail. Longer animations that are more faithful to the show for certain attacks, and animations that are actually animated as they were done in the show instead of the character just powering up, flexing, and magically being in the new form. Not to mention how great the destructible environments are. The gameplay in this game overall is solid, aside from, in my opinion, there being too many options to counterattack, making you have to overthink too many things. But the real issue with this game is when it comes down to what there is to do in the game. The options in this game consist of Episode Battle, which for all intents and purposes is story mode, Custom Battles, which has a selection of pre-made extra battles as well as the ability to create your own scenarios, Regular Battles, and World Tournament. Aside from the actual modes, there is a challenge menu with a limited selection of feats to accomplish in other modes for rewards, the shop to unlock things, some galleries, and the screen where you summon the dragon with the Dragon Balls. So let's talk about Episode Battle. I touched upon this on my old channel when talking about Raging Blast 2 back in the day, where I kind of commended them for giving us something different to play instead of playing through the story mode over and over again like we had in previous anime games. There are a multitude of reasons I kind of hate replaying the official series story. For one, we've done it over and over again in way too many games at this point, and while they try to address that a little bit here, it always feels kind of bizarre to play this game with a huge roster and get pigeonholed into just playing as Goku for a huge chunk of the game to unlock everything. It gets old starting with the Raditz fight and going through the entire timeline over and over again. But oddly enough with this game, it feels like they just randomly decided to not even do that right. Since you have separate story paths to play through as Goku, Gohan, Piccolo, Vegeta, and Trunks. But for some reason, Piccolo and Vegeta, it doesn't even cover all of their battles. They both have battles in Super, but they both just stop in Z for some reason. The mode has a decent little selection of what-ifs, but I feel like the way they handled it here is missing the point that Tenkaichi 3 had. Since here you can only get what-if battles for a character that already has a story mode to play through. But back in Tenkaichi 3, they had weird stuff like, what if Devilman showed up to stop Mecha Frieza instead of Trunks? I think if they do make a Sparking Zero 2, the best way to make the game interesting is rather than once again playing through the story over again, would be to just have a straight up what if mode with a huge lineup of what if scenarios. Like maybe as an example, what if Vegeta had let every one of Frieza's henchmen who offered to switch sides actually live and join him. Heck, there would be no shortage of crazy scenarios they could raid from the Japanese exclusive Dragon Ball Heroes arcade games. The next mode of interest here is, well, the severely underwhelming custom battles. The pre-made ones I guess you could consider just an extra batch of missions to play, as some characters you don't get the spotlight in the story mode as much. But as for actually making one of these yourself, the dialogue limitations where you can only use pre-made dialogue and swap around keywords and phrases is just too limited to really make anything particularly interesting or worthwhile. Unless something dramatically changes, I feel bringing this back for a sequel is just a waste of energy. Moving on, we come to battles. You can either do a one-on-one battle or do a team battle where you can assemble a team based on how many points each character takes. Play these offline, or how I'm assuming they expected most people to get hours in the game, which is to play online against other players. And I have to say, I hate online battles, and I knew I would. Aside from not being into competitive PvP to begin with, these games have never been balanced around that idea. Even though any character could theoretically beat any character, certain characters are just better and certain characters are just weak because they're supposed to be. So if you play online, there's maybe a total of 10 or so characters you're going to see over and over again in spite of the game having a roster closing in on 200 characters. Because if you're playing against someone who is good as you and you're using a weaker character, you're going to lose. Heck, certain characters have enough difference you might lose if the person is worse than you. I only played this game online at all because the achievements required me to do 100 online battles, and I mainly just fucked around using King Cold because I figured either I'd beat someone who was legit bad at the game, or the fight would end quickly and lessen my suffering. The only other mode to really say anything about with this game is World Tournament, but after you've beaten each different tournament once and gotten their first completion reward, there's little to no reason to ever do one again. You'd be better off just beating up the AI in regular battles unless you really want the game to choose your opponents for you. With all the modes covered, this leaves me with few other things to discuss. There isn't much I can say about the challenges or shop, as they're just a means to an end to unlock things in the game. But as for the Dragon Balls, the worst grind to get in all the achievements was the achievement for summoning Purunga. If you bought like the most expensive edition of the game to get all the DLC and whatnot, you start with the Dragon Balls to summon Shenron and Super Shenron, and can summon them immediately. And yes, this does unlock their corresponding achievements. But really, the bonus should have been to get the Namekian Dragon Balls, because getting these things was an immense pain. Because both of the other sets of Dragon Balls drop from doing the story. Namekian Dragon Balls only drop randomly as drops for completing individual battles in battle mode. And even there, the other Dragon Balls have a higher drop rate. Some people theorize they drop more on Namek, but this seems to just be an assumption with no actual basis behind it. And the best way to grind them seems to be to play on a World Tournament stage against Hercule with Ring Out turned on, and immediately ring him out with an Energy Blast the second the match starts, hit rematch, and keep doing it over and over again. I can't really complain about the roster in this, as much as I wish Mercenary Tao was in it, though the odder omission was King Piccolo, seeing as they put Kid Goku in this and had his ultimate move be the move he defeated King Piccolo with. I honestly have more of a beef with the DLC choices, because they're all from Superhero or Daima, when I was hoping they'd at least throw us a bone or two on some of the characters that did not make it into this that were in Tenkaichi. Not to mention the DLC has all just been characters, no extra modes, and getting extra characters when you're more or less done with everything is kind of pointless. If they make a sequel to this, they really need to not make the Dragon Balls so annoying, and we need to bring back some modes from older games like Mission 100 from Tenkaichi 3 or Galaxy Mode from Raging Blast 2. We just all around need more single-player content because generally speaking, anime games typically aren't known for huge online competitive scenes. I know my ranting here probably sounds like I hated the game, but I really don't. I actually liked the game a lot. The fact that I liked it is the only reason I stuck with the game long enough for a bunch of these things to really get under my skin. But I did all there is to do, and all there was to see in less than 40 hours. While I have over 100 hours in Super Dragon Ball Heroes World Mission, when that game doesn't even have achievements at all, I have 95 hours in Xenoverse 2, when I hated that game's story being a rehash of the first game but with movie villains thrown in. Yet I have all those hours in those games because it gave me stuff to do. I wanted to play more Sparking Zero, but there really wasn't any reason to. I do suggest owning this for anyone who is a fan of Dragon Ball, but I also suggest trying to get it on a deep discount. Don't pay full price like I did if you didn't already make that mistake. With that, you've reached the end of the video. Thank you for watching. It would probably be a great help if you do that like, comment, and subscribe thing that everybody else is always going on about. It could bring me one step closer to gathering all 7 Dragon Balls and being able to become a real anime girl. With all of that said, until next time everybody, happy gaming.